In three, two, one.
Three, two, one, action. I love saying that, right?
Yeah,
Welcome, Impact Makers. How are you today? This is a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and we're coming to you worldwide right here. Where are you at, Jonathan?
this is Santorini, Greece. This is actually one of the tools that I use for my dream building. Keep me focused on my dream.
This right here is Northern California off here in the distance.
This is
So,
Santorini, Greece.
yeah, awesome, man. So let me make sure we're at gallery mode. Boom. We're gonna do in and out here today. So as we come into today's interview, I really just want to kind of set the precedence, right? Building castles in reality is the name of this interview today with Jonathan Dean. And in today's interview, we're going to explore his DreamBuilder program and how it's taking entrepreneurs to new heights and bringing them back to those childhood dreams, right? So anyone who's been in my world for a while, they know that I'm a big person on vision and imagination because I see so much in my world where the outside world is kind of dampered down who you thought you would become or who you wanted to become, or even in the process of who you're becoming, things are coming at us that stop us and make us think that the world isn't built that way. But the real reality is it is. Vision leads to success. You'll see this common theme throughout the interviews is everyone keeps talking about without that vision, how do you take the actions and how do you monetize what you do? So in today's interview, I just kind of want to explore that with Jonathan. And just so you guys know, like every once in a while, I'll have a few questions for Jonathan that I told him about when he popped in a few seconds ago. But the rest of this is just off the cuff from our heart to your heart so that you know, like, you were meant to do the things that you want to do in life. If you dreamt about being a firefighter and something in the world changed it to where you ended up somewhere else, as long as that imagination grew with you and just didn't get dampered down and stomped away, then more power to you, right? You just got to be able to see that vision. So, Jonathan, why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, and then we'll kick this sucker off.
All right. Well, as Brendan told you, I am Jonathan Dean. I'm retired from the Air Force and I work for the government, federal government, and currently working for the federal government with the Air Force again, still. So loving that, doing that. And that was all part of the vision, the dream that I had when I was young. My dad said, go off, get a great job, have a great career, and get a retirement. And at the time, I had no clue how to do that. He didn't tell me how to do that. He just said, go do it. And so the Air Force, because that's the environment that I grew up in, I had all the military around me. So the Air Force was one way that I knew I could do that. So I went off and got the career and everything, but it didn't hit my dreams. And so, that's how I've come over to the Dream Builder. That's how I've met Brandon and, been working with him. But yeah, so that's where I'm at, and I go to school and I get educated a lot. I have a lot of training. And the one thing that I've realized, the more educated you become, the less you actually know. So that's kind of one of the things I've been learning to and coming to grips lately.
You know, I keep telling, I have three kids, right? And I keep telling them, get the education so that it relates to the experience of that point in time in your life. So that now you can realize you know nothing and start learning.
Well, I had the greatest lesson that I ever learned in my undergraduate degree didn't come in all of the classes that I sat in getting the credits to actually get the piece of paper. It was the moment that I was about to step on the stage to walk across and receive that piece of paper that I got the greatest lesson of my entire collegiate career was, literally, I mean, time stopped and froze because I lifted my foot up and I was about to put it down on the stage and everything just stopped. And it was like, what have you learned? And in my mind, I started racing through all of the math classes, all the English, all the history, all the economics, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't learned anything. And it was in that moment that was the lesson that I learned, that my whole collegiate career to that point was teaching me that for everything that I've learned, there's so much more out there to learn. And I was only just beginning. I hadn't even begun to scratch the surface. And, again, I come back to, yeah, I've got these certifications and things, but I really didn't start learning how to apply all of this until meeting Brandon and doing this Impact Maker Summit and working with the High Impact Coach Program and everything. So again, I'm still learning. 6 degrees later, I'm still learning.
Yeah, it's funny that you touch on that because I've been going, so me and you, right? We're young. Some of
Yes.
our gurus, the people we have trained under, they're getting up there in the age, right? Like two of my mentors right now are in their 70s. And I
Yes.
believe you were at Mary Morrissey's program today, right? Mary's
Yes.
up in the 70s right now,
Yes,
right?
she is. Yeah.
And I mean, just training underneath these legends. But here's what's more important for me. Like when you said you just like stepped down that moment and realized, what do I know, right? Do I know anything? Am I completely stupid right now? I went to a mastermind over in Newport Beach I think it was about 2 months ago. And it was a pretty high level mastermind, in a high level home, big, huge circle around this probably a 4,000 square foot room with this fireplace in it. And the entrepreneurs that were sitting there, every single one of them, 7 and 8 figure earners, like consecutively earning large dollar amounts from all different trades, right?
Yeah.
As I sat there and looked at the panel, right, there was a retired kicker from the NFL, one of the greatest kickers of all times. And he was probably in his 60s. The gentleman next to him, 8 figures a month earner, and he was in his 70s. And the gentleman next to him was 82 years old, and he had the most wisdom of the whole room. And I felt there just sitting there going, this is awesome. Because the vision I have for myself doesn't stop at 40 years old, doesn't stop at 50 years old. The actual vision that I see, the imagination that comes to life, is me and my wife in my 70s sitting on this porch in two rocking chairs, looking out over this tall 3 foot grass area, like beautiful rolling
Yeah.
grass
Yeah.
down at the ocean. I think you've heard this story before.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I'm still a coach. I'm still a speaker. I'm still on stages. I am the Bob Proctor, the Brian Tracy of that generation. And I'm in my 70s. So as I'm sitting there that day, I'm thinking, this has only just begun. There is so much more of my life. I'm about to learn more in this next 25 to 30 years than I ever did in the first 30.
No, so true.
And I heard John Maxwell the other day. I know he's a great coach of yours.
Yep.
And just he was saying, like, when I got into my 50s, my patience level and the way I absorbed the experience of the learning that I was going through was 10 times greater than ever in my 20s and 30s and 40s. So
Yeah.
he said, I'm growing more now in these later what they call the golden years, right? Than
Yeah.
ever before. And I had the pleasure of being around Bob Proctor during the last couple of years, the 10
Yeah.
years prior to his passing, right? And being in that world and teaching those classes that he taught and absorbing all of that. And I feel like he was good when he was young, but
Oh,
from his 60s to up to where he passed, he was amazingly on point.
yeah. And to jump off of that, or substantiate that, I've seen the videos from when he was younger, back in the 80s, and I'm thinking, what was I doing in the 80s? Granted, I graduated high school 86, and then, but Bob Proctor was out there in the 80s and the early 90s doing this stuff. And I was like, where was I? Why wasn't I getting exposed to that? But then I jump up, like you said, and because I've been through his programs too in the past few years. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he was good back then, but he was phenomenal today. So it was like, I liken it to speakers that, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, you want me to speak for an hour, give me 3 minutes. You want me to speak for 30 minutes, give me 2 hours. You want me to speak for 5 minutes, give me 3 hours, or give me a whole day. So the shorter time he had to speak, he needed more time to prepare. And I think that principle applies with, Bob Proctor and us as well, that, we've had all this time to prepare. So we've been preparing. And as we prepare, we're narrowing down and we're making that message that we've got to a finer point so that it's a spear, a very sharp spear that we can just point it out and go.
Yeah. And yesterday, Albert, he was on the interview yesterday
Yeah.
and he's aim point shoot, right?
Yeah.
Something to that effect. But that's the life that we live as coaches, right?
Yeah.
Once you've set the vision and you know the strategy that you want to take, now everything is literally just the action that takes out from it, right?
Yeah.
And even as I was looking into like I always do some research on any interview that I come into, and I want to be a little bit knowledgeable, right? And I want to get on here and go, hey, what do you do, bro? But for you and me, we have a history, right? I've known what
Yeah.
you've done for a long time. I also studied the DreamBuilder under Mary Morrissey. I didn't go as deep as you did, but I also saw the similarities between her and Bob
Yeah.
building these visions and living off this thing. Because I mean, basically, all of them were triggered by Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah. And then, even sitting in Mary's seminars right now, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's Bob Proctor coming out, she's quoting Bob Proctor, but they've also done programs together. So yeah, they overlap and so and that's one of the other greatest lessons I've learned through you is that yeah, there's all these gurus out there and they've each got their little program and they got their little name for it, whatever. But they're teaching the exact same principles just from their perspective, from their experience. And so that was one of the barriers that I've been breaking through to become the high impact coach that you've been training and coaching me to be is that, okay, yeah, they've got all these things but we're all teaching the same thing just from our experience. And there are other people out there that have similar experiences that are going to connect with us.
Yeah, and you just nailed that one on the head. And I want to reiterate what you said was you're teaching it from your experience, right? Because you are the expert of your experience. So it
Correct.
doesn't matter if Tony Robbins taught you the tapping. How you apply it with your clients is the niche separator that separates you from everyone else. There could be 5 coaches who step into the room that teach a vision board exercise, but your experience on how it changed your life makes you a mentor in that training, not
Correct.
just a coach. You're not just teaching someone how to do the Myers-Briggs assessment.
Yeah.
You're teaching them how this dream builder came to life in your life and how you were able to take applicable action on it, right? And
Yeah.
I told the story. So even my publisher said to me, hey, when you told me you wrote this book once before, why didn't you publish it? And I thought for a moment, why didn't I publish this book? So I have wrote the book High Impact Habits twice. The very first time, Russell Brunson had uncovered the museum for Bob Proctor's Think and Grow Rich and
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill stuff and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to reiterate this. And this is going to circle back to what we're talking about. I go, I'm going to write high impact habits to think and grow rich now. And I was like, I'm going to totally play off of what Bob did back in the day and what's happening with the secrets to success with Russell Brunson. And I wrote the whole entire book. And when I got to the end of it, I realized there was just something missing, right? And I couldn't figure out what it was. I tried running it through AI to do analysis on it and tell
Yeah.
me what I was missing. And it kept missing the point too. And here's what it was. I had read Think and Grow Rich when I was in my 20s. Great book. That was awesome. Excited
Yeah.
about it. Told everyone I knew about it. Did absolutely nothing with any of the information.
Yeah.
I was even one of the top salespeople in the niche I was in. I had restaurants and nightclubs. I was doing really well, but I never attributed it to Think and Grow Rich. I just knew that I had read it, right?
Yeah.
Didn't remember much about it. Didn't even know that there was 13 principles. I forgot almost all of the book into my 30s. So then in my
Yeah.
30s, I read the book again. And then somebody said to me, what do you think the biggest core of it all was? And I said, well, for me, in my 30s, the transmutation, being able to harness this other energy, sexual energy, ADD energy. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't notice, I've got ADHD for sure. They tried to give me pills all the way through school. My mom just wasn't having it. She's like, he's just energetic. And I was like, that's what it is, harnessing that energy and then using it for good, right? And
Yeah.
he goes, no, you're missing it. And I was like, okay, tell me. He goes, no, I want you to think about it. For 2 days, we were going to see each other for 2 more days. And he said, okay. I said, came back and I said, all right, it's aligning yourself with your imagination and knowing that your beliefs are possible to believe in and believe that they will come true. And he goes, no, man. And I said, I'm not leaving again without you telling me. And he said, the key to Think and Grow Rich is taking what you learned and putting it into action. And I said, okay, I can see that. But if you don't go through all the principles and live them, no. The principles, you already understood it when you read it, what the experience in your life would be. So now take action on it. And when you read the next principle, take action on it. And when you imagine yourself having this thing in your life, take action on it. And if you do that, Think and Grow Rich will come to life for you.
Yeah.
So as I went back and looked at the book, I realized that the one thing that was missing from everything was the actionable steps of each chapter. So I threw both books away. I just archived them in my folder. And then I went to Game Changer Publishing, and now my book is coming out, High Impact Habits. But it has nothing to do with Think and Grow Rich, but it has everything to do with Think and Grow Rich. And it has everything to do with 7 highly effective habits and atomic habits. It has everything to do with everything I've ever learned, but my experience on how I took action and made it a habit in my life.
Well, you said something that, reminded me that of the saying that we never cross the same river twice. So you may come to the Mississippi, and you cross over it, and then you come back to the Mississippi, the same spot that you crossed the last time just a year ago, but it's not the same river, because you're different and more and different water has been flowing. It's gotten deeper, it's gotten shallower along the way. And the same thing when we read a book, we're not crossing that river, that same river that we crossed the first time when we read the book in the 20s or in our 30s. So every time we read the book, we're crossing that river again and picking up something new. And I think we are taking action from it because it gets into us, but do we take conscious action? And I think that is probably another key for me is, just making conscious action of applying the principles.
Yeah, and I would call it intentional action, right?
Yes.
Setting that intention to really take the actions to get the result that you wanted. And guess what? To accept the result when it's almost what you wanted and do it again.
Yeah. So that, comes back to the story that I was sharing with you just a couple weeks ago. I was in this car, the lease was coming up. I needed to, either make a decision to buy it outright or trade it in for the next model. And, I've had my heart set on a CRV, because I've had CRVs in the past and they are great. I love them. And I wanted another CRV because it's, I just love the car. Well, the principles, the 3 basic phases of dream building are blueprinting, bridging, and building. So I blueprinted the car that I wanted. I went to the Honda site. I picked the CRV. I picked the trim level, the model, the color, everything that I wanted in it. I printed it out. I went to the dealership and I said, hey, this is the car that I want. I want this. And they're like, well, we don't have that on the lot. And but we do have this. And they offered me a trim level higher. And I was like, okay, I looked at it and, I liked it. The color was similar to the color that I picked out and everything. But then when we came to making the deal just wasn't going through because it was the vehicle that they were offering me did not match up to my blueprint. My blueprint was this car. And so when the deal wasn't going through on the trim level they offered me, they were like, well, let's see if we can go find it. So they went and they found it, and then we closed the deal. So I blueprinted, we bridged, and we built. And that is Dream Builder in a nutshell.
That's awesome. And right as you're saying this, I kind of want everyone to hear this because you said it very profoundly, right? You never cross the same river twice.
No,
But you didn't invent that quote,
no,
but you know the experience of what it's done in your life.
yes,
And I teach seminars, right? I do workshops. I do live workshops from stage, right? And you'll be sitting in the audience and I'll go, you've heard this story before. You've learned this lesson before. And guess what? You might even be thinking, I already know this. And then I come in and flip it and say, but now you're crossing that river a second time. Will you actually do something with that knowledge this time? You'll be surprised how many intake calls I get in. They're like, oh, I already have that. I already have this. Okay, then why isn't the marketing working? I don't know. Maybe the message is wrong, but you said you had it already. So the messaging you had the day that you formulated it and who you became, it's a different river you're crossing now. You've got to hone it into who you are today and make sure that you're still living that dream. And I
Exactly.
mean, we're in the weeds right now, bro. This is nothing compared to the dream builder we're supposed to be talking about, but this is what is raw about this, right?
Yeah.
You never cross the same river twice. So as you're hearing this interview today, maybe you are about to give up. Maybe the imagination has slipped away from you. Maybe your imagination isn't really aligned with where you truly want to go. And guess what? Today's the day to start over. So I want to ask a question off lid. I mean, I told you I was going to ask you a couple questions, but what do you think happens to us from that day that we start out imagining the things we want and we dream about them as kids? And even as a teenager, you dream of this home you want. And then all of a sudden, the world comes in. What do you think contributes to that dampening of true imagination of the human?
Wow. You asked that question, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, how my dad, you know, you know, taught me, or he would counsel me as I got older. I was like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, and one day he pulled me aside and he said, Jonathan, that's not for people like us. And in his mind, for whatever reason, despite the fact that he had an awesome career as a senior hull designer at a shipyard, designing all the Navy ships that the Navy has out there, I mean, he's top of the field. And when they wanted to put him out to pasture because all the computer technology had come in, and they had all these snot-nosed brats coming in that had all the computer training, knew how to do everything on the computer. But when they ran into a problem that the computer couldn't solve, they called my dad back in to train them how to figure it out on paper. And so my dad was just old school. That's the point that I'm making is that he's old school, and he was taught that you come up, you get a good job, you get a career, you get a retirement, but and then you live your dreams. And so live according to his mindset, living your dreams is for later, not for today. And today is the day that you have to live your dreams, because you don't have tomorrow. you know Despite the fact that you and I both know that we're looking down the road at 70 and 80, for me 975. I know people think I'm crazy when I look down and I say I want to live to my 975, but that's my dream. Will it come true? I don't know. God's going to be the one that blesses that or not. But I'm looking down that far, but I'm living my dream today. And again, I have to give it back to you and thank you for keeping me accountable to that and reminding me that my time is now, and that I have to do it now and be a high impact coach today.
Absolutely. And listen to this. This morning at 10:25 a.m., just a random text from a client coming in, and they asked a question about something, and I said this: all we have is time in the moments that we are living. Live them to their fullest. As every minute time is passing, enjoy the time you have with the people when you have it. Make it a great weekend. Just randomly off the blue, right? And then immediately after, I had to send another message to a friend of mine who's going through something with the family. And I said, I want to remind you that time is always passing. These moments are the best parts of our lives. Being around people that we love and living our lives to the fullest now. These are just two things that happened this morning before we even jumped on a conversation, right? And I asked you this question specifically. I already kind of knew what the answer was going to be because I know that I was that young kid with this really big imagination. But I lived in a very poor household on one side, and then I had a grandfather who was very structured, bought a home that he could literally afford, never would ever, if it was a penny more than he thought in his budget, you didn't buy it. And
Yeah.
as he got up every morning, if he wanted something, I've told this story throughout the years. Like, if he wants a pair of tennis shoes, he would clip the coupon 3 times before he'd go buy them to make sure that he was getting the very best deal possible and not wasting a moment of money because he needed it to live the life he wanted because there was a structure he had to go through. And every time I came to him and said, Hey, Grandpa, I crushed boxes all week and I earned $200. I think I'm going to turn this into a job and be self-employed. He'd say, no, 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 Brandon. Go down to the restaurant and get a job there. Make them pay you. Get a W-2 and build your 401k. And I'm like, the hell is that? My
Yeah.
imagination is I'm going to go do some work, make some money, and go big with it. I'm going to crush boxes for 8 hours a day for 8 different restaurants, and I'm going to be a freaking rich kid. And he's like, no, 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 security. And then as I got into my entrepreneur journey, he did the same thing to me. Hey, there's a lot of ups and downs being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Just go work for a company. You're brilliant. They'll pay you lots of money to work for them, and you'll be able to buy a house right here by us and live in this neighborhood with us. And when I retire, you and your father can split the money from my wealth and blah 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 blah. The traditional thing, right?
Yeah. And that doesn't work because that puts you on a plateau. It puts you in and to keep it into your geographical Death Valley.
Yes.
You know, because literally you're not living. You're dead. You're just and as Matt Boggs puts it, one of Mary's sons, he's like, some people live 90 years, some people live 1 year 90 times, and the same year 90 times over. And you said entrepreneurship has its ups and its downs, and of course it does, because those ups are the pinnacles that the entrepreneurs are looking at. It's like, oh, I'm going to that pinnacle, and then they get to that pinnacle and like, oh, there's another one for me to go to. But to get to that one, they got to go down first to go back up. That's how it is with I was when I was stationed in Turkey, I went mountain climbing, free climbing before it was even known as called as free climbing. And I was out there and I just literally parked the car off the side of the road, and started climbing this mountain. And I started climbing. I was like, I want to get to that peak, and I got to that peak. And then and as soon as I got to that, I was like, oh, there's another one, and I literally I had to go across and I had to go down a little bit and go over and then come back up. That's entrepreneurship as well, so it's ups and downs, it's going from pinnacle to pinnacle. And that's what life is all about. I mean, if you want to go live in Death Valley, go be my guest, but it's no fun.
Yeah, a while back I seen a post and this gentleman, it started off very serious and I was trying to see what he had, right? And he said, this morning I got up and I taught my son to get his education, to lock in that job that was going to secure his security, how to buy his first home, live in that home for 30 years, paying off that mortgage till his kids are born, and then have them go to the school 3 blocks away from that home so that he is stuck in this neighborhood for the next 30 years of his life
Yeah.
so that he could live the American dream. And he stopped right there and said, are you freaking kidding me? If that's what I'm supposed to teach my children, we will literally move to the middle of nowhere and we will learn how to build an empire out in the desert until we want to leave. And I was like, what is he writing about? And I started thinking about what he was saying. And he said, there's no way I'm going to teach this kid the constraints that society has put on people. We are unlimited.
Very.
We were born with authority to do whatever we want in life, and it doesn't matter if you live on a little hut on the side of a beach, or if you live in that castle that you're going to build for yourself. You have the right to be infinite. You're not finite. I don't believe that I am finite, and this is the one thing that I'm allowed to do, and this is all that. I've had more failed businesses than I currently do successful ones. I can literally count for sure 27 businesses that I had as a younger kid that were fads and they just didn't make it. Startup companies that did really well for a couple of years and then some competitor comes in and you're no longer relevant anymore.
Yeah.
But when you're teaching people dreams and personal development and you're a speaker, author and coach, you grow with it.
Yeah.
And you become better and better and better. The more books you read, the more people you're around, the more association into these groups, you have this infinite world for you. And like, even when I finally came into the moment where it was no longer like brick and mortar meetings, guess what? I can live anywhere in the world. And that's the most liberating feeling that I have ever had as a human. Just knowing that I could go right now to Hawaii for a month and still not miss a beat on anything that I do.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd have a little more ocean time and I'd be surfing a little. I don't know about the surf in Hawaii, but I'd be doing some fun, right? one of my mentors right now says, have a lot of fun, make a lot of money, and help a lot of people. That's what I live by. Have a lot of fun, make a lot of money, and help a lot of people. Because if you're having a bunch of fun, that means you love what you're doing and you're making a lot of money doing it. You can help more people than you ever could in the world sitting in that cubicle, changing the algorithm of Facebook, or sitting in that cubicle and building this invention. Yes, it could help change the world. It's definitely a reputable, it's a proud business to be in, right? Some
Correct.
people aren't meant for the big journeys. That's fine. That entrepreneur that owns that
Well,
company, that is,
I want to stop you right there. All of us are meant for the big journeys, all of
yeah,
us.
you're right. I shouldn't have said that.
And it's just whether we choose to do it or not, whether we choose, because part of my vision is to go around the world and help people free themselves from the self-imposed slavery that they're convinced that they have to be part of.
God, isn't it
And
so much mindset? Everything that we do is so much mindset. And the words that
everything.
we say become like, so I hands down that you corrected me on that. You're totally right. What was coming to my mind when I said it is I have a friend. We both interviewed for the same job right out of like just barely got my AA degree in web design, right?
Yeah.
And they offered, I was already working union. I worked for a construction company. I was going to school at nights and then one daytime class. And they come back and they offer me 18 bucks an hour for this job. And I'm like, yeah, right, dude. I'm freaking 19 years old. I've already got my degree. I'm about to go for my big degree, and I'm gonna make movies and all this crazy stuff. Right? I was in acting and coding and all this stuff, and I owned a nightclub at the time. I wasn't even 21 at the time. I owned a nightclub, couldn't even be on the liquor license, and they're offering me 18 bucks an hour, and I'm working prevailing wage at the time for like 50 plus dollars an hour, working dates like literally 5 a.m. getting off at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And my buddy took the job. And he was like, dude, we're going to work our way up this ladder and we're going to have so much fun. And I'm going to do all these crazy things making video games. And my life will be like so secured. And you're over here, entrepreneur, construction worker, going to acting class and film class. And the job was offered by a small little company out of Berkeley, California, Pixar.
Oh,
So he got to work on all the crazy Pixar films. And
yeah.
he still works in that industry now and he makes a really good living. And he looks at me when we meet up and goes, you're freaking crazy, man. Yes, you're doing crazy stuff. He's like, I don't even know how you do what you do, how you built this freedom, this life, this family that you did without this type of security. So he's just a yin and yang personality of me, right?
Yeah.
He's so happy, family loves everything he does. He loves what he does. He's stressed out because there's a lot of deadlines.
Yeah.
But when I look at that person, that's just what he wanted. His biggest dream was similar to mine,
Yeah.
to be a great father.
Well, you said the key word there, which is the same thing that my dad was pushing on me, was the security of having the job, but that security was just an illusion because it didn't even exist. Even, I mean, when I was coming up, yeah, everybody was that had gone into that job and had that career and was retiring at 40 and 50 years and getting the gold watch, that was about ready to collapse and fall away, and then the 90s, I can't say much of what happened in the 90s because my military career took me across the globe and I was outside of the country during all that time. But I saw what was happening from afar, but that all fell apart. And then we jump into the 2000s, and we had the great 2008 crash with the real estate and everything. But now, and then with the great pandemic, or fear-demic, as I like to call it, I've had other people, other friends of mine say, no, 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 it's the growth demic because it forced a lot of us to grow. Some of us grew our minds, and some of us grew our bellies. Um, but
20 pounds I put on during that thing, dude.
but the thing, with the gig economy, so there's no security in jobs anymore. Somebody just, I can't remember who it was, just a couple of days ago said they got laid off. They're just done, and they were in absolute tears, on, what am I going to do now, because they didn't have anything else. But yeah, that's the illusion of security that was beginning to fade even in the late 80s when I was beginning my career, so, but yeah, that doesn't exist anymore.
There's two things that I want to nail on that, right? So there was this saying that I heard, and I'll probably butcher the heck out of it. I think it was Tony Robbins originally said, "You're either moving because you're persistent or you're backed into a corner." And
Yeah,
sometimes being backed into the corner, guess what? It breaks through that subconscious mind pattern that there is nothing for me. I have no choice to find something different, right?
yeah,
And you're backed into that corner, you break through a pattern and you kill a limiting belief because you have no choice.
yeah.
Sometimes you kill that limiting belief because you're so persistent to pursue your dream that fades away, right? Now, here's one of the biggest key things that I want everyone to hear in this summit right now. And Jonathan has his own showcase. So if I'm showboating over here and stealing the stage, Jonathan, it's just because this is open floor,
Oh yeah,
right?
this is great. No, this
Some
is,
of the toughest companies, some of the toughest entrepreneurs, some of the smartest business ventures that have ever come out in the economy in the world were built during the worst times ever. Tony Robbins will say during the winters, right? They were
yeah,
built in the winter. And when you build something strong in the winter, guess what happens in the summer and fall? So right now, you may be in a winter in your life. You may be in a chapter of your book that just doesn't suit you anymore. And I said this yesterday. Guess what? That chapter is allowed 2 pages,
yeah.
and then write the next one because you were made for more. And everything that you're looking at requires your imagination to overpower that subconscious, unwanted, limiting belief so that you can have what you want. And this is why Jonathan has the Dream Builder Academy and he teaches this profound teaching because it starts off every single time with the vision, the belief, aligning yourself with it and taking action and being persistent. And one of my favorite ones of the structure of this program is just knowing that gratitude is the most powerful tool you have for transformation. And then stepping into that spiritual connection, no matter what that higher level for you is, just looking at the 7 pillars of the dream builder and then the 3 ones, right? Build it, bridge it. I won't slay that one for you.
Blueprinting, bridging, and building.
There you go. Blueprinting it. That's the vision. Bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to go.
Correct.
And then just
Building
doing
it,
it.
getting out
Yeah.
there and building it.
And when I say building it, that's the do, have, and be, right? Do the things that make that thing come to life. Have the things in your life that allow you to be that person to have what you want. So I do want to ask you one of the questions I told you I wanted to ask you, but we I love these interviews because there's no reality of where we need to end up because we will be where we need to be, right? So let's imagine one of your clients going through the Dream Builder program and they're kind of coming out of it with this new alignment of what they truly want. What's the biggest mindset shift or realization that you see them take away from your program? And how do you help them embrace that?
Well, that's kind of a tough question, I think, for me at the moment.
Of
Like
course.
going back, we got the blueprinting, we got the bridging, and the building, and we've encapsulated that perfectly. But I think the core of all of that is, one of the things that I've had to learn is that everything that we dream, everything that we build, every car, every computer, every T-shirt, every sign that we have behind us and whatever, it was created twice. First, somebody had to think it, and then they had to think it in such a way that it got into their heart, that their heart had a picture and a vision of it. Because what did King Solomon tell us? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So it's the things in our heart, the things that we envision in our heart, that then come out and we can create. So if it's not created here first, then it can't be created out here. So we've really got to break that down and have that realization that creating it from our heart first, or in our heart first, and then we can bring it into reality. So everything is created twice. And you can dream, and everybody dreams, but you've got to take and make that dream a reality within you first before it can become a reality for everybody else.
It's freaking
That's what I
crazy.
would say.
I love it. Oh, I just want that to set in for a moment. let's hold that space for a second, right? It has to be in your heart.
And that's the other realization I come to is that Mary's teaching these things. Bob has been teaching these things. John Maxwell teaches these things. The list goes on and on. Tony
Brian
Robbins.
Tracy, Tony Robbins, Dean
Yeah.
DeGrasse, shit, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, exactly. But you go back to what King Solomon wrote, and it was being taught thousands and thousands of years ago. It's nothing new. It's part of who we are. It is our DNA. It's our makeup. It's not all these principles are nothing new. It's not, we just discovered this. No, it's been here all along, and the noise from our society, in the Western world and the way things have gone, have kind of squashed and silenced that. But then you have the Brandon Heintz's of the world and the Tony Robbins of the world come out and say, "Hey,
Your time is now.
your time is now. You need to be high impact." And we're just echoing what King Solomon had been taught when he was a child. That as you think in your heart, that is what you're going to be. You create it in your heart, and then you can create it for everybody else.
So true too, man. I wish somebody would revamp our whole entire education system. But it's going to take time as humans evolve. But I mean, even I went to a TEDx recently, and one of the teachers said if we were just given 2 hours a day to teach creativity and mind, I could change the whole entire system within a year.
Probably even less.
I know.
And the thing is you don't even have to teach it. You just have to let it be. Because a 3 and 4 year old, they can come in and create and just do amazing things. You know, and then we can just help mold it and guide it, along, but don't restrict them so much into that they
Don't
can't.
damper their imagination.
Yeah.
Let them live, man. I
Well, my
remember I think I showed you one of my Halloween things on the screen one time at one of my talks where I was
yeah,
dressed up at like 7 years old, and I was like, I had a Batman belt on, but I was wearing a suit and tie with a briefcase, right? So my
yeah,
imagination was like, I'm gonna be a superhero who works at a corporate job and has a briefcase. Things are gonna change in my world. And I
yeah.
was
Well,
serious, man. At that 7 years old, I was dead serious. And I remember my landscaper, my grandfather's landscaper, actually it was my Uncle Charlie's landscaper. He would sit with me and just let me tell these big whopper stories. I'd be like, I'm gonna own this company and we're gonna have this, and I'm gonna have these people doing these things. And he'd be like, yeah, Brandon, yeah, you're gonna do that.
and
It's awesome.
and we need more men, to tap into my brother Albert over there, because his mission is getting men to step up and be men.
Yeah.
We need more men to sit down with the boys and girls and let them tell the whoppers of the stories that they've got in their hearts and their imaginations, and just say, yeah, let's go for it. My son, he's 17 now, and he's going to he was homeschooled for the majority of his education so far. In the past couple of years, he's been going to a private school, and they've got tons of clubs and everything. And there's a club that he's finally getting involved with is called Future Business Leaders of America, and it was just so amazing because he came home yesterday and he was telling me about how this is working. They've got the senior class, they got these business leaders from all across the country. There's some of them are alums from the school, and they are going to help the seniors that are part of the club to invest tens of thousands of dollars and teach them how to do that. And then the point that I'm getting to is that my son, he's only a junior this year, but he caught a vision for himself. And he's like, when I'm a senior, we're going to do that. I'm going to go out there, so, and I'm just sitting back and I'm like, yes, because I'm letting him run with his imagination. And, sometimes it's difficult for me because I still hear my dad's voice coming out, oh, go get that security, but because, as much as, I want to break away from that paradigm that was that blanket of security, the illusion of security that I was given. I still tried to run to it, and I still try to pass it down because that's what it was done for me, but
It's survivable.
yeah,
The subconscious mind says, I can survive that pain.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know about that one. So
yeah.
you stay away from it. So
But yeah, it's like I said, just seeing him, have that and then just tapping into that and trying to fuel it for him even more. So,
yeah. And I mean, me and you both know Rafal, right? He's been
oh
embracing his
yeah.
son's dream to be a pilot. Did you see the plane caught on fire?
Oh no, I missed that.
Oh my gosh, he's been supporting him all the way through and through. And then all of a sudden, one day, like the plane is out on the runway and something happens and the whole cockpit just melts. Plane's
Oh
done. Got to get a new plane. And
yeah,
he's like, all right, let's do it again.
yeah,
And me and you both deep dive into personal development. Those of you who don't know right now, he's actually on a break. He's in a DreamBuilder seminar right now. So this is the lunch break, and he's out here feeding into you guys because this is why he builds dreams, right? And on that same personal development note, we both deep dive into personal development. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm very big on associating into the things that I want and being around the people that are doing the things that I want to do in my life. And this weird show comes on. So you've heard the saying, so you think you're a redneck? How do you know if you're a redneck? So Jeff Foxworthy is a comedian, right? And I'm
yep.
listening to I'm pretty sure it was the Ed Milet show. And Jeff Foxworthy is on this show. And I'm like, he doesn't interview this type of person. And I'm trying to figure out like why this person is on the show. I'm almost positive it was Ed that interviewed Jeff. And Jeff said, what I'm teaching my boys right now is how to fail, how to fall down and lose at that business and then do it again, how to adventure into that and do it again, to get that job and get fired if you weren't good enough. But I'm teaching them like how to step through these moments of resilience
Yeah.
so that they know that they can stand back up and move back to the next step. There's always going to be a winter, spring, summer, fall. Some of the states, you guys, some of the continents you're on, you don't have all four. I have all four of them where I live. So I see the transitions. And in my business, I prepare for them.
Without being too political, I know, I don't know where anybody falls on the political spectrum, but Donald Trump, I mean, I remember one of the stories that he shared, he lost it all. He said his bank accounts were at zero, and his daughter, I can't remember her name right now, she said that was when she saw her dad that day, that was the lowest she'd ever seen him. But then he turned around and bounced back. And I mean, he had been a multimillionaire, lost it all, went to zero, came back and became a billionaire.
Yeah. And we hear the stories over and over and over again, and it inspires us. I mean, Albert told the story yesterday, being curled up in the ball. I've told this,
Oh,
I've done it 3 times, you guys. I have failed in my life tremendously, let myself down 3 times in 50 years. And each time I've come back even stronger because God gave us the steps and the trials to prepare us for what was next. My mentor, I brought him up yesterday. When I met him, he's 5 years out of one of the largest bankruptcies ever filed in the state of California. They
that's
lost so much assets. And I mean, it took 7 years to disseminate and finally close the book on this bankruptcy. But in that 7 years, guess what happens? He files the bankruptcy, and there is a time stamp right there in time that says you may now rebuild your life.
yep.
And he did.
That's what you're supposed. You said something that just sparked a memory. How we've failed and we've gone to that curled up on the floor, whatever. So back at the beginning of the fear-demic, March 13th, we were told to take our laptops home. We were going to be home for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And I'm sitting there at National Institutes of Health thinking, you people are nuts. I'm not a scientist, but I do know math, and there's 8 billion people on the planet. There's no way this is going to happen in 2 weeks. You people are insane. you know, so 2 weeks turned into four, and then four turned into 2 months, and then and about month three, I'm literally in my brain, I'm like, I'm not going to survive this. I literally felt like I was dying. And then one of my mentors, Miss Leanne Gabriel, she reached out and she said, "Hey, a bunch of us on the team are doing this Darren Hardy program, called Jumpstart. Do you want to join us?" And and before
We're
she could
like, yes.
yeah, before she could before she even finished asking me the question, I was like, yes. You know, A, I didn't care how much it cost. B, she was the one asking me, so I knew it had to be something valuable because she'd been a mentor in my life already at that point for a couple of years. And that is the one turning point during these past few years since 2020, which led me to meet Raul, which then led me to meet Brandon, and to really delve into this world. And and along the way I also met Mary Morrissey and all of that, and got into all this. So this is so the dreams, we have them out there. Our dreams are always a part of us, and sometimes our dreams are going to find a way to fulfill themselves whether we want to do it or not. Because in my heart I knew I wanted freedom, and that was and that's the one thing in my heart that I know I want: the time and money freedom to do what I want to do, to go live in my house in Santorini here when I want to do that. And
And wait, don't forget the castle.
and don't and the castle in Germany. uh
You
yeah,
remember, I'm like, show me the blueprints. I want to see the picture. You were like, I got them.
I do. It's right
Build the
here.
blueprint, build the bridge, build the castle, right?
Probably can't
Wait,
see
you
that.
have them right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what I
um
mean, you guys. Like, we are not every single person that's come through my mentorship that's in this community. You guys are doing the things that you say you want to do. And this is proof right here. The blueprint is right here with him.
I
You
mean,
got
and
your
this is
laptop bag, huh?
yeah, well, this is my blueprint that I'm working at. This is not the blueprints that I gotta take this, my vision, and I've got to go to an actual architect and say, this is what I want. Give me the real blueprint so that we can go then build this thing.
Yeah, show me
But
the bridge, build it.
yeah, so this is the blueprint that I'm making for myself so that I can give it to somebody else that is educated in doing all of the technical stuff, putting in the electrical outlets and the wiring and the heating and all that. But then, and then we go to the building, and then there we go, and then we have the castle. So
It's funny, as we're sitting here in this live, I don't even know, a mutual friend of ours, Dina, just
oh,
sent a message in
that's my
through
sister.
Messenger. Yeah,
That's my sister.
because strength in knowing your imagination is not fake. It's an image of what can be. The image you have in your mind can come to fruition with intentional moves towards it when you believe in it. When you think of that image, I want you to remember the word image. Intentional moves awaken greatness everywhere. Keep the image
Oh,
alive and awaken your greatness. Absolutely, girl. You're on fire. And
she's in
this
the
is
live right now.
no, she's actually on Facebook Messenger. This just came into
Okay.
my box. I don't even know if
Oh,
she's watching or not. If you're watching, that was amazing.
yes, perfect.
And this is kind of one of the things I always look at with all of us, right? The moment you start to tap into that vision and believe in it, the universe will surround you with the tools and the how-tos immediately. But when you're stuck not getting that message or that offer and your marketing plan together and building the vision of what you want for yourself in your life, the universe just skips by you because the frequencies aren't aligning.
Correct.
Beautiful day, bro.
Awesome.
I know we fought like Thursday, Friday. What are we gonna do? I'm like, we're doing it Saturday then, bro. We're doing this interview because I want you guys to start seeing like all of us are out here doing the best we can with the tools that we have, and it's just another human being you're sitting across from. We're just
But
two normal dudes.
but and you said something just now. We fought. Are we gonna do this Thursday? We're gonna do this Friday. We're gonna do it Saturday. Whatever. But here's the thing. I want come back to the dream builders that we were blueprinting that.
Yeah.
We knew, hey, we're doing this interview,
And Zoom was the bridge.
and we were blueprinting. We blueprinted it, and then we finally solidified the blueprint to say, all right, Saturday. And then now we're bridging it and building it. So we blueprinted, we bridged, and then we built, or building now. So, but this is how fine dream build the principles that are taught through dream building can be applied down to everyday um, ex- um experiences in our life. It's not just for the big things. It's not just for the home in Santorini or the castle in Germany. It's for the everyday things and everyday things in our life, getting all tongue tied. But yeah, so we're gonna blueprint our day, we're gonna bridge our day, and we're gonna build our day. And so we got to get to these point where we're doing all of these things, these blueprinting, bridging, building, all the time, all throughout the day. Some of the dreams are going to take longer periods of time to build, depending on how big the dream is, like the castle in Germany, the home in Santorini. Take a little bit of time, but that's okay. But then
Yeah,
once you start going, like Brandon said, once you get on that right frequency, the whole universe says, "Oh, here it is."
it
So
is. I am a firm believer, and I think I read this in the last couple of books I've read about manifestation have been kind of shocking that they're not really like you manifesting what you want. It's more of you aligning with the universe for what you want. And one of the best quotes I've heard is that the moment that you seem to connect with that inner you, to where your true vision and the dream that you have radiates out of you, the universe will now conspire to help you have it. And I was like, it's so freaking true. The
yeah,
moment you are on point, and I want every single one on this interview right now to think about the moment, that one time when you were operating at full capacity and you felt good and you were celebrating. I don't care if it was one day ago or 10 years ago. I want you to go back and ask yourself, what was going on in my life that was so good at that moment? Where was my gratitude? Where was my attention? What was my dream at that moment? And then guess what? Have all three of those relived right now and do it again. Find out what that Brandon had that day and give it to him again. And if you got to go back into that memory and look at it and pause that picture and go, how did I become that Brandon that day? Then do it. Build
yeah,
the dream, build the castle, do the things that you want, and don't let anybody stop you. Naysayers, they're just naysayers.
yeah. My dad loves me to death. I'm his firstborn child, firstborn son. I'm carrying on the family name. My dad loves me to death. So he came in, and he said, "Jonathan, that's not for people like us." He said that out of love because he wanted to protect me. But at the same time, he didn't understand the principles of this alignment and, living that dream. So people are going to say things to you because they love you and they really, truly do love you, but they're not there to help you.
And embrace that love. I just told my wife and my daughter in the kitchen this morning, I said, you know what the most powerful frequency in the world is? Love. And I
And
would back that up right behind it with gratitude, but love is the most powerful one.
and Mary Morrissey, she's one of her titles is she's the spiritual side of personal development. She teaches the spiritual side of personal development, and she tells us that the language of spirit is love.
Yeah,
And again, I'm going to go back to King Solomon because he's one of my heroes. As a man thinketh in his heart, and what is the symbol for love? Oh, it's the heart, by the way. As a man thinketh in his heart, what a man is loving, that is what he is. So
it's so true too, man. Yeah, I remember when I said this would be a 20-minute interview. Oops. It was only 20 minutes, right? I don't even know how long we've gone.
I'm not sure either.
So, this is your time, so I want to let you close this. So you close it and say whatever you want to the audience and the people out there that need to build their dreams.
So, you know, dream building is something that we do whether we realize it or not. You're going to build a dream and it might be a nightmare because you're not applying the principles, you're not understanding the principles. And that's what dream building is here for. Dream building university is for, is to help you understand the principles that we use naturally to build our lives, blueprinting, bridging, and building. And that everything is created twice. The life that you're living now, you've already created once before in your heart. If you want a different life than you're living now, let's create a different life now through Dream Builder University and move on. And we got the four quadrants that we can work on. Your vocation, your love and relationships, your health and wellness, and your time and money freedom are the four quadrants that we're going to work on, applying the principles from Dream Builder. So come over us and let's have a chat and see if we work together.
Yeah. And everyone in the group right now, the blueprint, the bridge, and the build, right? So we're going to be teaching the blueprint. And I mean, this is a surprise notice to everyone because everyone was trying to figure out this summit with me, right? And I told them I'm going to promote it 21 days prior, and then 21 days it's going to run. It hasn't even started yet. This promotion level is the warm up. When 2,500 people register for a summit and they come into this Facebook group, 2,000 of them already forgot. So we're warming you up. We're doing these interviews to make sure that you know that the best is yet to come. These interviews are going to go on for the next 2 weeks. There'll be a guest coming in all the way through the lives. Not to mention, there'll be 6 trainings starting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All next week, you're going to have 6 speakers showcasing all of their stuff. So I want everyone in the group right now, if you're catching the replay, this is a very simple task. In the right-hand corner of the Facebook group, right from your phone, it says invite. Guess what? They're going to have to come in and register for the summit if they want to see the videos. But go invite at least 10 people today to this group that you know need to be here and tell them to go back and watch this interview. Watch the interview from yesterday and the one from the day before. Let them start believing in themselves so that they can have more in their lives. This summit is just basically me bringing the Impact Maker Society together in this big kickoff. Because the more of us that are aiming towards the same goals and we start having faith in ourselves and associating into the right crowds, the Impact Maker Society is going to change the intention in your life so that you can live your truth and build the habits to grow. So thank you all for today.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, my friend. And then what I want to say in closing right now is that all of you are here in this group for a reason, and you've taken this 20 minutes out of your day today to spend with us, right? Now take the action to really vision what you want and take action on it. Bye for now, you guys. I don't even know how to turn off the live anymore. They changed so much stuff in here. Jonathan, I
Yes.
love you, my brother.
Love
I
you
will
too,
reach
man.
out to you. I want you to really enjoy your day at the DreamBuilder.
Thank
And
you.
I want you to send me some feedback today. What's the biggest takeaway you got from it? Not just this little interview, but today. Like, what was the biggest takeaway from that event, man? And hit me up
Got it.
later.
All right, we'll do. Thank you.
All right, bye for now, you guys.
Now.